Why do you start with energy, but end up stuck in procrastination and self-doubt? The truth is, losing motivation isn't about being lazy. It's about how your brain works. In this video, we'll uncover the real neurological reason you struggle to stay motivated, and more importantly, how you can reignite your drive starting today. Discover the hidden brain systems that control, focus, and reward, the surprising triggers stealing your momentum, and simple science-backed strategies you can use immediately to rebuild consistency, rewire your mental habits, and finally, take action on your goals. If you've been feeling stuck, unmotivated, or frustrated with yourself, this video will help you understand your mind and master it. Motivation doesn't vanish by accident. It shuts down when the brain can't detect a clean start signal. Here's the shift that changes everything today. Treat motivation like a triggerable system, not a mysterious mood. Right now, attention is split across too many open loops, making any task feel heavier than it is. That weight isn't laziness, it's ambiguity. Remove ambiguity and the brain fires. Think of a starter pistol at a race. One clear cue, one undeniable action, immediate acceleration. That's what this video delivers. Across the next minutes, a precise protocol will convert hesitation into motion by engineering start signals, shrinking the cost of beginning, and moving rewards into the present moment where the brain actually cares. This is not about hyping up willpower. It's about switching the brain from avoidance to approach with simple, testable steps that work today. The goal is practical. Create one micro-win in the next 2 minutes, then stack momentum without drama. If there's tension between who someone wants to be and what happens daily, it ends here. The method is clinical, friendly, and direct. Do the first cue, feel the spark, expand with intention. The system is reliable because it respects how the brain operates under uncertainty, distraction, and fatigue. By the end, the decision to start will feel lighter, faster, inevitable. Let's fire the pistol and move. The hidden starter pistol. The brain does not start without a signal it trusts, and this is the difference between days that slide by and days that actually move forward. When a task sits in the mind as a foggy shape, the nervous system treats it as a potential threat because ambiguity costs energy. The quickest way to flip this response is to design a single, repeatable cue that makes the next gesture unmistakable. Think like an athlete at the line. One sound, one move, immediate acceleration. The cue is simple and embodied because the body is faster than thought. Stand, square the shoulders, inhale through the nose, exhale longer than the inhale to lower noise. Put both feet on the ground, open exactly one screen that contains the task, and execute the first physical action that proves the start has happened. That action is tiny by design. Type the title, set the timer to 2 minutes, put on shoes and step outside, place the book open to the exact page, press record. The point is not progress yet. The point is ignition, because ignition reliably produces momentum. The brain learns by repetition, not intention. Pair the same cue with the same first action every time that category of task appears. Over a few sessions, the cue becomes predictive. The system recognizes the sequence and lowers resistance early, like a track athlete anticipating the shot. This is how people who seem disciplined are actually operating. They have built a reflex. Start signals work because they collapse negotiation loops. Most procrastination is a room full of questions with no answers. Where to begin, what to open, how long it will take, whether the output will be good. The start cue answers only one question with certainty. What is the first gesture now? That single answer is enough to cross the threshold. Once across, attention reallocates from hypothetical fear to concrete steps. The sensation is a shift from internal bargaining to movement. Expect it to feel smaller than imagined and more immediate than expected. That is not a flaw. That is the mechanism. A reliable starter pistol also respects context. Attach it to a consistent place and time where the fewest competing cues are present. If mornings are quiet, make that the window. If evenings are calmer, stage the environment beforehand so the cue is frictionless. Remove extra tabs, silence non-essential notifications, leave the needed file or tool in plain sight. A cue that requires searching is not a cue. It is another hidden task. Design the trigger with sensory clarity. Choose a specific sound that marks the start, not a playlist that drifts into passive listening, but a single tone that signals action. Choose a posture that is distinct from leisure. Choose a tactile object that becomes the physical switch. the same pen, the same keyboard shortcut, the same stopwatch. Teach the brain what start feels like, sounds like, and looks like. Precision beats motivation because the nervous system prefers certainty over effort. The first 2 minutes are sacred. Do not evaluate. Do not plan the entire task. Do not predict outcomes. Execute the micro gesture until the timer ends. Only then decide the next micro gesture. This keeps the system in approach mode and prevents cognitive overreach that restarts avoidance. If resistance spikes, shrink the action again. The starter pistol has one job: get the body moving in the direction of the task. The rest follows. Consistency is more important than intensity. Fire the same pistol daily for the same type of work, even at minimal dose. This preserves the association, strengthens the reflex, and lowers the threshold for future starts. When the association is strong, motivation feels like it is back, but it is actually the absence of friction masquerading as drive. That is good news. It means motivation is not a mystical force that needs chasing. It is a behavior that needs installing. Treat every important task like a race start. One cue, one gesture, no debate. Over time, this becomes identity level. The person becomes someone who starts. Output grows because starts are frequent, not because willpower is dramatic. The next chapter will map exactly what helps this ignition and what quietly kills it, so the cue does not get suffocated by invisible drains, and the first 2 minutes always lead to momentum. Friction versus fuel map. Every action either steals ignition energy or feeds it, and most people cannot tell which is which until momentum is already gone. The friction versus fuel map fixes that by classifying behavior by what it does to the first 90 seconds, not by how it feels in theory. Friction behaviors are sneaky. They look harmless because they are tiny, but they multiply decision steps, dilute attention, and spike micro-stress that the brain interprets as a cost. Fuel behaviors are the opposite. They compress choices, prime sensory systems, and deliver a quick sense of progress that the brain reads as a present reward. When the map is clear, the start reflex becomes predictable. No more guessing why the day felt heavy. No more blaming character for what design created. The map becomes a daily control panel. Begin with the drains. Unbounded inbox checks, scrolling before starting, opening multiple tabs as a warm-up, and moving the goalposts with last-minute planning are friction. They create invisible pre-work that delays the first gesture. Each extra decision is another toll the brain pays before it gets to act. Ambiguous workspaces are friction. If the desktop, desk, or notebook contains several competing projects, the brain cannot lock onto one target and stalls to conserve energy. Vague language is friction. Saying "work on the project" offers no start point. The nervous system needs a verb and an object it can execute now. Time uncertainty is friction. If the task might take 10 minutes or 2 hours, the brain picks the safer path and defers. These are not character flaws. They are design errors. Identifying them is the first half of the map. Now, install fuel. Define the first 90 seconds with insulting clarity. Open exactly one file or tool and ignore everything else. Preload the environment so the first gesture is physical, simple, and measurable. Set a 2-minute timer and perform a micro-action that produces a visible artifact. 3 bullet lines, 1 paragraph, 1 set of shoes tied, 1 diagram sketched, 1 email subject written. This is fuel because it creates a fast feedback loop. The brain detects movement and releases a small reward signal that says, "keep going." Sensory priming is fuel, a specific sound to start, a particular scent, a posture that belongs to work, lighting that cues focus. These anchors are not fluff. They teach the nervous system to shift state on command. Constraint is fuel. Limiting inputs, blocking distracting sites for a short block, clearing the desk to a single object, and setting a maximum of 1 open tab all reduce choice and increase action. Hard stops can be fuel. Knowing the session ends in 15 minutes frees the mind to commit fully. Build a map in writing and keep it visible. On the left, name the top 5 friction behaviors that typically kill the first 90 seconds. On the right, list the fuel behaviors that reliably trigger forward motion. Run a quick pre-flight check before starting. Remove 1 friction, add 1 fuel. It is enough. Do not try to perfect the map. Use it. Update it weekly as patterns become obvious. Personal maps differ, but the principle holds. Friction replaces, start with thinking. Fuel replaces thinking with doing. The moment a session feels heavy, return to the map. Ask which friction slipped in and which fuel is missing. Swap them immediately rather than wrestling with motivation. Treat the map as a living system, not a poster. Over time, the brain internalizes it. Beginning becomes simpler because the environment and the sequence carry more of the load. Starts stack up, momentum compounds, motivation appears stronger, but what changed was the balance between drain and drive. This is how control returns to the day, and why the next topic will make starting even easier by shrinking the promise to something too small to resist, yet powerful enough to tip the entire system forward. The micro-promise contract avoidance thrives on the size of the imagined cost. Shrink the cost and approach takes over. The micro-promise contract is a one-line agreement made in real time to perform a single 120-second action right now. It is not a plan for the day, and it is not a bargain with future energy. It is a present-tense commitment that is too small to trigger threat and large enough to flip the brain from hesitation to motion. The contract works because it reduces ambiguity to zero, collapses decision space, and creates an immediate, tangible win the nervous system can reward. Write it or speak it exactly. I will start the task by doing this one action for 2 minutes. Then execute without commentary. The goal is ignition, not excellence. The brain needs proof of movement, not a lecture about intentions. The contract has 3 parts that make it effective on difficult days. First, a concrete verb that can be performed physically. Type, highlight, export, outline, pack, walk, file, record. Second, a defined object that ends the debate about where to begin. Page 3 of the draft, the shoes by the door, the client file named Q4, the sink with 5 dishes, the first paragraph's topic sentence. Third, a strict 120-second boundary enforced by a visible timer. This duration matters. It is long enough to produce a real artifact and short enough to feel safe. Most resistance dissolves when the brain believes it only owes 2 minutes. If momentum appears, write it. If not, stop on time and count it as a win. Either way, the contract is fulfilled and the start reflex strengthens. To install the habit quickly, deploy the contract at the same time of day for the same category of work. Consistency trains the brain to expect an easy entry ramp instead of bracing for a grind. Keep the ritual identical. Set the timer, speak the sentence, perform the action. Record completion with a single check mark so the reward is visible. This micro-proof compounds. After a week of daily contracts, the identity begins to shift from someone who struggles to start to someone who starts on command. That is the quiet transformation people chase when they say they want motivation back. The contract also scales. On heavy days, choose the smallest viable action and end at 2 minutes. On strong days, let the 2 minutes bloom into a focused block. The point is reliability, not bravado. Guard the contract from common sabotage. Do not upgrade the action midstream into planning the whole task. Do not add research or extra steps before the first gesture. Do not move the goalposts by redefining success as anything other than 2 minutes completed. Perfectionism will try to hijack the simplicity because complexity is how avoidance hides. Refuse the bait. The contract's power is its minimalism. It turns the psychological mountain back into a curb and invites the body to step over it. Over time, the start becomes automatic and the emotional weight attached to beginning dissolves. This is the hinge that swings the door from stuck to moving. With the micro-promise in place, the next move is to wire the brain to feel the reward now, so drive sustains beyond the first 2 minutes without forcing willpower to carry the load. Reward now, results later. Motivation fades when rewards live too far in the future. The brain prioritizes what it can feel now, not what it might receive weeks from today. Pull the payoff into the present and momentum sustains without forcing effort. This is the core of present-tense reward design. The task must generate a signal the nervous system recognizes as progress in real time. Use sensory cues, visible progress, and tangible completion markers to translate abstract work into immediate experience. A single chime at the start, a timer counting down in sight, a bar that fills with each action, a check that lands in a visible log after 2 minutes. These are not gimmicks. They are bridges between intention and action that teach the brain to treat work like a source of quick payoff, not slow debt. When the reward clock moves from later to now, the start feels lighter, the middle holds attention longer, and the end arrives with less resistance. Design the first reward to appear within the first 60 seconds. That is the zone where approach or avoidance is decided. If nothing feels different during that window, the brain will scan for something easier and more instantly satisfying. Make the early seconds rich with feedback. Hear the same start tone, see the same focus layout, feel the same posture, watch the same 2-minute timer begin. Then produce a visible artifact fast. 3 lines, a sketched outline, a saved file name, a recorded intro. Each artifact is a marker the brain can count. Counting matters because numbers cut through ambiguity. If the mind can say, "I'm 2 units in," it signals safety and competence, which fuels further action. Pair that with a deliberate micro-reward at completion. Stand, breathe slowly, mark the session complete, sip something enjoyable, or step into sunlight for 20 seconds. Keep it brief, consistent, and earned. The association must be tight. Do the block, get the reward, repeat. Turn the entire session into a game of present feedback. Break the work into 5-minute frames with clear win conditions and reset cues. The frame starts, the timer runs, the single goal is executed, the log increments, the body receives a small pleasure. Then begin the next frame. This rhythm prevents the mid-task slump where motivation evaporates because the end is too far away. The brain stays engaged when it can anticipate nearby milestones. Use visible counters for frames completed. Keep the scoreboard public to the self, not hidden in an app folder. Progress should stare back. The more concrete the experience, the less room there is for doubt to grow. When doubt does appear, shrink the frame, not the ambition. 2 minutes of clean execution beats 20 minutes of scattered intention. The goal is not to impress the future. The goal is to reinforce the present until the future is inevitable. Protect the system from counterfeit rewards. Mindless scrolling, inbox hits, and notification checks deliver instant pleasure that competes directly with the designed payoff cycle. During focus frames, block or bury those cues so the fastest available reward is the one tied to the work. This is environmental honesty. By removing faster dopamine sources, the brain learns to source satisfaction from progress rather than distraction. Over days, present tense reward design rewires expectations. Starting becomes easier because payoff is predictable. Continuing becomes easier because payoff is frequent. Finishing becomes easier because payoff is compounded. Motivation stops feeling like a rare spark and starts behaving like a steady flame fed by constant oxygen. With rewards moved into the now, the next step is to script the first 45 seconds so drift cannot steal the start, and the body enters the task before the mind has time to negotiate. The first 45 seconds decide the entire session because that window is where drift either sneaks in or gets shut out. Enter the task like a pilot running a pre-flight checklist. Same order, same cues, zero chatter. Stand and square the posture to signal readiness. Take a deep nasal inhale and a longer, slower exhale to drop noise. Place both feet firmly on the floor to anchor the body. Sit with the spine tall, hips grounded, shoulders relaxed. Put on the same focus sound at a consistent volume. Set a visible 2-minute timer in the center of the screen so the countdown owns attention. Now remove negotiation by making the workspace monogamous. One screen, one file, one objective. If writing, place the cursor at the first line and type the title immediately. If training, tie the laces and start the first warm-up rep. If studying, open the exact page and read the first paragraph out loud. The goal is to have the body acting before the mind can bargain. Action creates state, not the other way around. Lock the ritual to physical micro-gestures that feel unmistakable. Hands on home row, fingers resting with light pressure, eyes fixed on the active window, not the desktop. Breath steady, 4 counts in and 6 out. Shoulders still, neck long. This sensory template becomes a signature the brain associates with starting. The familiarity is a shortcut. The moment the body enters the template, the mind follows. Keep the script strict. No inbox glance, no tab survey, no quick calendar peek. Those are invitations to drift. Treat the ritual like a vault door closing behind. Once sealed, the next step is automatic. Produce a visible artifact within the first 30 seconds. Type 3 lines. Sketch a box with labels. Record a single sentence. Lift and lower the bar once. The artifact is a receipt that proves the session began. Without a receipt, the brain doubts and goes hunting for stimulation elsewhere. Time perception in the first minute can distort. The mind may claim there is not enough time to do anything meaningful, or that more preparation is needed. Refuse both stories. The ritual exists to override them. The timer enforces containment, which creates safety. The artifact creates completion, which creates reward. Together they push the system into approach. If attention wobbles, reset without judgment by rerunning the opening 5 seconds. Posture, breath, feet, sound, eyes on the single window. Doing this twice in a row is not failure, it is training fidelity. Over days, the reset becomes rare because the ritual constrains options so tightly that wandering has nowhere to go. The body knows the path and takes it. Make the environment complicit in success. Put the keyboard at a height that encourages upright posture. Keep the chair at a distance that prevents slouching toward the screen. Position lighting to eliminate glare and visual clutter. Place the timer where peripheral vision can track it without moving the head. Keep the desk clear except for one object tied to the task. Attach meaning to the first sound so that the tone itself feels like the start gun. The fewer stimuli that compete, the more the ritual dominates and the faster the start reflex fires. The first 45 seconds are not about intensity, they are about certainty. Certainty shrinks hesitation. Hesitation shrinks energy. Energy conserved at the start is energy available for the middle. When these opening seconds are mastered, the session begins on rails and the need for motivation drops sharply. With drift neutralized, attention stays anchored, and that sets the stage for the identity shift that makes starting feel natural because it becomes who the person is, not what the person struggles to do. The task identity switch motivation improves dramatically when identity shifts from chasing outcomes to initiating actions. The brain defends whatever identity feels most consistent, so if the self-image is someone who struggles to start, it unconsciously preserves that pattern. Change the script. Adopt the identity of a starter, the person who begins tasks quickly, cleanly, and often. Identity is not a slogan, it is a set of cues, words, and environments that make certain behaviors feel obvious. Start with language. Speak to self in present tense, specific, actionable terms. I start tasks fast. I open one screen and move. I ship a first draft before I judge it. These phrases are not pep talks. They are instructions that the nervous system follows when repeated in stable contexts. The more often they precede action, the more real they become, and the easier starting gets. Mirror the identity in the environment because surroundings teach behavior faster than willpower. Place tools in ready positions and remove decorative clutter from the work zone so the scene says do, not decide. Keep the desktop clean with a single active window. Place a visible checklist that begins with a start gesture. Open file, start timer, create first artifact. Treat these as identity badges. Each completed start is a vote for the kind of person being built. Do not wait for a feeling to align with the identity. Act first. Feelings follow evidence. The first 2 minutes of any session are where identity is proved or doubted. Make them unmistakable. Press the timer, take the breath, execute the first keystroke. The act confirms the claim, and the claim becomes easier to make next time. Use self-cueing like a scientist, not a cheerleader. Write a one-sentence protocol on a sticky note at eye level. When I sit, I start with a 2-minute action and log it. Keep a tiny ledger of starts, not hours. Count how many times the starter identity was expressed today. This metric matters because starts create throughput. The outputs compound because initiations are frequent, not because sessions are heroic. When resistance shows up, talk like a starter. I only owe the first gesture. This job gets a 2-minute opening. I can stop after the receipt exists. These phrases narrow the field to action and shut down debate. Starters reduce everything to the next physical move. Anchor the identity socially and visually. If a camera or screen reflects back a messy posture or a scattered workspace, correct it immediately. The way the body looks to the eye becomes an input to self-perception. Sit like a starter. Breathe like a starter. Use the same object to begin. Pen, keyboard shortcut, stopwatch to create a ritual signature. Over time, the ritual becomes synonymous with the self. This is not performance, it is engineering. The nervous system prefers predictable patterns. Give it patterns that make beginning feel safe and familiar. When it feels off, do not negotiate with the story that says, "Today is different." Run the identity protocol anyway. The smallest version counts. The more unglamorous the start, the more resilient the identity becomes. Retire outcome labels from the opening phase. Outcomes belong to planning and review, not initiation. The starter identity means starts happen on schedule regardless of mood. That reliability liberates creative energy for the middle of the work, where quality is shaped. Ironically, outcomes improve when they are no longer the identity's hinge. The hinge is the start. With this identity installed, friction has fewer entry points because the question shifts from "will I do this" to "how do I start now?" The answer is always the same: one cue, one gesture, one receipt. That stability is motivating because the brain senses control. Control breeds confidence. Confidence invites effort without force. From here, the path gets simpler. The next move is to erase hidden steps that steal that first clean start and make the entire beginning visible on a single screen. So initiation is instant and doubt has no place to hide. Anti-ambiguity design. Ambiguity is the real motivation killer because the brain stalls when it cannot see the next move. Anti-ambiguity design removes every hidden step before the work begins, so the start is instant and effortless. Treat initiation like a one-screen problem. If the next action is not visible and executable from a single screen or a single physical setup, it is not ready. Make the scene say "do," not "decide." That means one visible file, one focused window, one tool in hand, one clear verb ready to execute. If there is searching, renaming, deciding, or reorganizing, that is pre-work in disguise and must be handled before the session. This is preparation, not procrastination. Preparing the one-screen start is what allows the nervous system to shift from avoidance to approach without debate, because the cost of beginning is now embarrassingly small and the payoff is immediate. The objective is to reduce cognitive load at the threshold to near zero, so the body enters the task while the mind relaxes into clarity. Design the environment like a cockpit. Everything essential is within one reach. Nothing non-essential is in sight. Pin the active document to the dock or taskbar. Rename it to the exact output being created so there is no uncertainty about purpose. Pre-type the first line or placeholder so the cursor lands where action happens. Place the timer dead center and the clock out of sight. Hide the desktop, clear the desk, and remove every tab that does not directly serve the first gesture. If a resource is needed, open it in a split view next to the work, not in a separate tab forest. If a file must be found, place it in a folder labeled Start so the retrieval is automatic. The governing question is simple: can the next gesture happen in under 5 seconds without thinking? If not, remove another layer of ambiguity until the answer is yes. Clarity at the threshold is worth more than enthusiasm after the threshold, because clarity guarantees ignition and enthusiasm does not. Script the one-screen start the night before heavy sessions. Stage the exact window, the exact line, the exact object. Leave a note addressed to the future self with a single instruction. Start here, do this first. This closes open loops and prevents morning decision fatigue from hijacking momentum. For physical tasks, lay out shoes, tools, and materials in the sequence they will be used so the hands know where to go before the brain narrates a story. For calls or recordings, preset audio levels, frame the camera, and place the script at eye level so the first line flows without friction. The ritual is simple. Sit, breathe, glance at the instruction, act. By removing choices, speed replaces hesitation. Speed is not rush, it is clean entry. Clean entry produces early wins. Early wins produce sustained focus. Keep a short list of the top hidden steps that usually appear and neutralize them in advance. Typical culprits include locating the correct version of a file, deciding which section to tackle first, checking messages out of habit, rearranging the workspace to feel ready, and reclarifying the scope mid-start. Convert each into a micro-rule. Files live in one place with version dates. Sections are pre-ordered with a star next to today's target. Messages are quarantined behind a blocker until after the first block. The workspace is fixed and unchanging for this task type. Scope is frozen during the opening 2 minutes. These rules are not rigid for their own sake. They are compassionate constraints that protect energy for the work itself. When the brain senses certainty, it releases the brake. Anti-ambiguity design is a kindness to the future self. It acknowledges that the hardest part is not the work, it is crossing the line into the work. By making the line unmistakable, the start becomes a reflex. Confidence rises because control is felt at the exact point where it used to be lost. With ambiguity gone, the next step is to aim effort at the hours that naturally deliver the best cognitive return, so each start lands inside the personal energy window where motivation feels like momentum, not a fight. Energy window. Coding effort feels expensive or effortless depending on when it is attempted, because the brain's capacity is rhythmic, not constant. Coding the personal energy window is about discovering the hours when cognition, mood, and stamina align, so starting feels natural and progress compounds. Run a simple 3-day scan. Notice the exact times clear thinking shows up, when words come easily, when problem-solving feels smooth, and when the body is restless or sluggish. Track only 3 signals: mental clarity, task resistance, and physical tension. The goal is to identify one primary focus block and one secondary block per day. Once found, guard them like prime real estate. Place cognitively heavy work in the primary window, medium complexity in the secondary, and administrative or physical tasks outside both. This is not about squeezing more hours. It is about matching task difficulty to biological readiness, so motivation doesn't have to drag a tired brain uphill. The scan reveals patterns quickly. Some brains peak early with crisp focus after waking. Others hit stride late morning or late afternoon. Evening peaks are real for many, especially on creative tasks, while analytical work might die there. Accept what the data shows, not what an ideal schedule demands. Nothing kills motivation faster than working against the grain. Make the environment reinforce the window. During the primary block, remove social access, hide the clock, set the ritual tone, and enforce the one-screen start. Keep a single hydration cue nearby and lock posture to the same stable template. Protect this window with a calendar barrier so no meetings or errands bleed into it. Treat interruptions as expensive because they are. One broken window can cost the day's best energy, and no amount of discipline will resurrect what physiology didn't supply. Feed the window properly, arrive at the focus block with a steady, not spiky energy curve, avoid heavy meals right before, limit new inputs, and give the nervous system 2 minutes of downshift breathing to clear residual noise. Light movement 10 minutes prior can sharpen alertness without jitter. Keep temperature slightly cool, light bright and indirect, and sound consistent. Small changes here matter disproportionately because they alter arousal levels that govern attention. During the window, aim for clean starts and visible micro-wins every 5 minutes. This pacing keeps the reward loop active and prevents the mid-session fade that tempts context switching. If fatigue hits early, resist increasing stimulation. Shrink the next action instead and finish the frame cleanly. Finishing on purpose preserves confidence and protects the association that this window equals success. When life bends the schedule, adapt without abandoning the principle. If the primary window is lost, slide the heavy task to the secondary window and cut the scope by 30% to respect reduced bandwidth. If both windows get fragmented, split the work into 2 short sprints with a clear reset ritual between them to refresh state. Use an energy audit at day's end. What hour delivered the cleanest start? Where did resistance spike? What environmental tweak helped most? Apply one tweak tomorrow and keep everything else stable. Over a week, the window becomes precise. The body anticipates the routine, and starting inside the window feels effortless compared to starting outside it. Motivation rises because friction falls and capacity aligns with challenge. With the right hours claimed, the next step is to pair neutral tasks with intrinsically desired cues, so the start becomes reflexive even on low-energy days, turning intention into action through engineered desire rather than forced discipline. Desire pairing protocol. Neutral tasks become easier when they are paired with cues the brain already wants. Desire pairing turns initiation into something the nervous system looks forward to by linking the start of a task with a small, reliable source of pleasure. The rule is simple. One specific stimulus equals start every time. Choose a soundscape that signals focus, a temperature shift that wakes the body, a scent that marks work mode, or a tactile ritual that feels good to perform. Keep the cue consistent and exclusive to the task category so the association tightens with each repetition. This is classical conditioning used intentionally. The cue is not a reward after working. It is a pleasure linked to the act of beginning, so the brain anticipates a positive state when the work appears. Over days, the cue itself triggers readiness. The start feels pulled rather than pushed. Make the pairing concrete and sensory. Pick a single track without lyrics at a fixed volume, a subtle citrus or peppermint scent, a cool splash of water on the face, a weighted pen with a satisfying grip, or a soft desk texture that feels different from leisure surfaces. These are small inputs with outsized effects because they signal a state change the body can register instantly. Pair them with the one-screen start so the entire opening becomes a bundle. Cue hits, posture sets, timer starts, first line appears. Keep the bundle sacred. Never use the cue for scrolling, messaging, or entertainment. Scarcity creates power. When the brain learns that this sound, this scent, this feel equals immediate progress and a calm focus state, resistance drops before the first gesture even happens. Calibrate the cue to the day's energy. On low-energy mornings, choose a brisk sound and cooler air to lift arousal. On high-tension afternoons, use a slower ambient tone and a longer exhale to reduce internal pressure. The cue should move the state toward the zone where attention locks without strain. Add a micro-pleasure at the 2-minute mark that seals the pairing. A brief stretch, a single sip of something enjoyable, a glance at the growing log. Keep it quick and repeatable. This is not a break. It is a reinforcement that says starting pays off now. If the mind starts bargaining to earn the cue without the task, pause and reset the rule. Cue equals start. Never stand alone. Protect the integrity of the association or it loses leverage. When the environment changes, travel with a portable pairing. Keep earbuds with the same track, a pocket-sized scent, a small tactile token, or a minimal keyboard shortcut ready on any device. The goal is continuity. The more context the pairing survives, the more robust the reflex becomes. If a cue grows stale, rotate within a small family that shares characteristics so the identity of the start remains stable. Think 3 similar ambient tracks, 2 related scents, 1 alternative tactile texture. Consistency first, variety second. Over a few weeks, the start begins to feel like stepping onto a familiar path that the body enjoys walking. This is desire doing the heavy lifting instead of willpower. Desire pairing is not indulgence, it is intelligent leverage. It acknowledges that the brain runs on predictions of pleasure and safety, and it uses that fact to make the first step feel attractive. When the start is reliably pleasant, the threshold fear that fuels procrastination evaporates. Work becomes the doorway to a state people actually like inhabiting. With this reflex established, momentum needs protection for the days that break routines, energies, or moods. That is where momentum insurance comes in, a set of safeguards that guarantees a comeback plan, preserves confidence, and keeps the streak alive even when life hits sideways. Momentum insurance. Momentum dies when life interrupts the routine, energy dips, or plans fall apart. The solution is to ensure momentum the way a pilot ensures a flight, with redundancies that guarantee a safe return to course. Build a comeback plan that triggers without debate the moment a day goes sideways. Keep it brutally simple. A 2-minute restart script, a portable focus kit, and a minimum viable win that counts as success. The restart script is a fixed sequence that requires zero creativity. Stand, inhale through the nose, exhale longer to settle, put both feet on the ground, open the one-screen start, set a 2-minute timer, produce a visible artifact, and log it. This is not a negotiation, it is a reflex. The portable focus kit makes starting possible anywhere. Earbuds with the same start track, a small scent anchor, a pocket notebook or note app with a Start Here page, and a timer. The minimum viable win is the smallest action that still earns a check. 1 paragraph, 1 set, 1 page, 1 call, 1 export. When standards drop, standards survive. Protect the streak with pre-authorized fallback modes. If the planned 45-minute block is lost, execute a 10-minute sprint. If the sprint is too heavy, fire the 2-minute contract. If energy is too low for thinking, do a mechanical task tied to the goal. Format, file, label, outline headings, prep gear. Tie each fallback to the same reward cycle so the brain still experiences completion. Record every completion in one visible log to preserve identity and rebuild confidence. Confidence does not need big wins, it needs proof of continuity. A clean streak of small receipts outperforms sporadic heroic sessions because motivation trusts what it sees repeated. When travel, illness, or stress hit, switch to maintenance mode. 1 micro win per day, same cue, same log, no extra decisions. Maintenance prevents the all-or-nothing spiral that turns a bad day into a bad week. Design friction-proof mornings and rescue-ready afternoons. In the evening, stage the one-screen start with the first line ready so tomorrow's threshold is nearly zero. Set clothing, tools, and workspace in sequence so hands move before thoughts can object. For afternoons, keep a scheduled reset pocket that is always open for a comeback sprint. Treat this pocket as non-negotiable insurance. On days with early success, use the pocket for easy wins that bank confidence. On hard days, use it to salvage momentum. Pair these structural safeguards with emotional buffers, a 2-minute compassion script that names the interruption, normalizes the detour, and returns attention to the smallest next step. Harsh self-talk burns fuel. Neutral language preserves it. Anticipate common failure modes and pre-decide responses. If a meeting overruns, start the 2-minute contract immediately after, not the original plan. If sleep was short, cut scope by 30%, keep the ritual intact, and finish one frame cleanly. If perfectionism spikes, impose a 5-minute cap on the first pass and ship the rough version to the next stage. If the environment is noisy, switch to headphones and the same start track. Reduce the goal to a single artifact and log it. If the day collapses completely, execute the 1-minute mercy win before bed. Open the file, type one line, log the check, and protect identity. Momentum insurance is not about never missing. It is about never losing the habit of beginning. The psychological effect is profound. Knowing there is always a way to count a win lowers anxiety before starting and reduces the urge to avoid. Starts become consistent because risk is capped, and the brain prefers systems that cannot fail outright. Over weeks, this safety net compounds into trust. Trust makes effort easier to deploy, which makes motivation feel available, even under pressure. With insurance in place, consistency becomes measurable. The next step is to track starts and short frames as the only two metrics that matter, turning progress into data that guides adjustments and keeps the flame steady without trapping effort in perfection. Data-driven consistency. Progress accelerates when consistency becomes measurable, simple, and honest. Track only 2 metrics that actually drive momentum: starts per day and 5-minute blocks completed. Starts per day tells the truth about initiation. It converts motivation from a feeling into accountable behavior. 5-minute blocks completed tells the truth about follow-through. It breaks effort into units small enough to sustain on busy or low-energy days while still compounding into meaningful output over weeks. Everything else is noise at the beginning. Hours can be padded. Vague work sessions can hide drift. These 2 metrics cannot be faked. Either a start happened or it didn't. Either a block was completed or it wasn't. This clarity reduces anxiety and kills perfectionism's favorite game, which is moving the goalposts after work has been done. Build a lightweight scoreboard that is always visible. 1 line per day, a small box for starts, a small row of boxes for 5-minute blocks. Use checks, not words. The brain reads symbols faster than sentences and rewards the sight of completion. Place the scoreboard where it is seen at the start and end of the day, near the screen, on the wall behind the camera, or as the first card in a notes app pinned to the top. Keep the ritual identical. Start the session, log a check. Complete the 5 minutes, log a check. Repeat. If momentum continues, keep logging additional blocks in the same row. If momentum stalls, close the row with a small mark to signal closure and prevent the mental leak of open loops into the evening. The goal is to make progress visible and final. Use the data to steer, not to judge. Review the scoreboard every 3 days and ask 3 questions. What time of day produces the most starts? Which environment yields the most 5-minute completions? What type of work converts the easiest? Adjust only one variable for the next 3 days and keep all others stable. If morning starts are low, move the highest value task into the first available window and stage the one-screen start the night before. If blocks collapse in noisy environments, prioritize headphones and the same start sound and cut scope by 30%. If creative work stalls in the afternoon, shift it to the primary energy window and move administrative tasks later. This is small sample science. Change less, observe more, iterate often. Handle off days without breaking the system. If the day derails, execute a mercy start and one 5-minute block before bed. Log it and close the row. This keeps the identity intact and prevents the emotional hangover that ruins the next morning. If a streak breaks, resist compensating with unrealistic goals. Return to baseline. 1 start, 1 block, log both. Streaks are useful because they keep attention on the process, but they are dangerous when they turn into brittle rules. The scoreboard should make action feel achievable, not punitive. Consider a soft streak rule. A missed day does not reset the count if the mercy block is completed before sleep. The point is continuity, not trophy collecting. As the dataset grows, patterns become obvious. Starts predict output better than hours. 5-minute blocks predict whether the session survives the first resistance spike. Together they create a loop that explains any result without drama. Low starts, low output. High starts with scattered blocks, busy but ineffective. High starts with many blocks, reliable progress. This removes moral judgment from productivity and replaces it with mechanics. Mechanics can be tuned. As confidence rises, expand the scoreboard slightly. Note the top obstacle of the day in 3 words and the single tweak to test tomorrow. Keep it brief. The scoreboard must never become the work. It must remain the mirror that keeps behavior honest and motivation grounded in evidence. With data driving consistency, the system becomes self-correcting. That frees attention for the finale, where everything learned gets compressed into a fast, cinematic reset that proves motivation isn't found. It is engineered on demand, starting with a single 2-minute move that earns a win today. The Motivation Reset Finale. Motivation isn't missing. It's waiting behind a start signal the brain can trust, a first gesture too small to resist, and a reward it can feel right now. The entire system compresses to one decisive sequence that works today. Sit tall, place both feet on the ground, inhale through the nose and exhale longer to quiet noise. Press play on the same start sound and bring a single screen setup into view. Speak the micro promise out loud. I will do one action for 2 minutes. Start the timer and create a visible artifact immediately. 3 lines typed, 1 outline sketched, 1 set completed, 1 clip recorded. When the timer ends, log the check. That check is the receipt that motivation isn't magic. It is engineered by clarity, state, and immediate feedback. If momentum appears, write it in 5-minute frames with quick resets and small rewards. If momentum doesn't appear, stop on time and keep the win. The identity locks in either way, the person who starts. This reset works because it solves the real blocker, ambiguity in the next move. It removes hidden steps, collapses choices, and moves payoff from later to now. It respects energy windows, uses desire to pull rather than push, and keeps a safety net ready for broken days, so progress never depends on perfect conditions. There is no need to wait for a mood swing or a surge of willpower. The brain learns through repetition. Make today the first rep. Fire the starter pistol, execute the 2-minute promise, mark the log, and let momentum compound in honest, countable units. The future version imagined is built by these small receipts, not by grand declarations. Start now. 2 minutes, 1 artifact, 1 check. That's the real reason motivation returns. It follows action engineered to be inevitable.